Das folgende Video wird präsentiert von firma.de, dein Partner Nummer 1 für erfolgreiche Firmengründungen. Auf dem firma.de Marktplatz bekommst du für deine Firma alles aus einer Hand. Hier kannst du dein Gründungspaket und weitere Bausteine wie Buchhaltung einfach online buchen und schnell durchstarten.
Welcome to Venture TV. Welcome Kevin Hartz. Kevin, you are CEO and co-founder of Eventbrite, and we are at the Next Web conference in Amsterdam, and you've just had a talk about what makes startups successful. And that was really interesting, and that's a really interesting question for you guys, because you can learn a lot from the things Kevin has to say. So, what does make startups successful? You've learned a lot during your time at Eventbrite, but you've also been an investor in PayPal, Pinterest, Airbnb, and Yammer. So you know what makes startups good and great. What is it? Tell us.
Well, Andre, part of it is just very hard work, but I like to learn a lot. I like to be a student of startups, and when I make investments, it gives me a chance to see how other entrepreneurs work, how other entrepreneurs function, and you don't have to be an investor to do this. One of the great things about the startup revolution that's happening in Germany right now and places like Berlin is that entrepreneurs get to work close together. When we were starting Eventbrite and my previous company Zoom, we actually shared offices with many other great companies, and that gave me the chance to compare notes with entrepreneurs. So one may not be able to get a board of directors with the CEO of Axel Springer on the board, but what one can do is have other entrepreneurs around to learn from.
Yeah, and you still do that, even though you are a really experienced founder now. You still learn from startups and look how they work.
You know, some of these teams, I'm on the board of directors of a company called Lookout, a mobile security company. And the entrepreneur there, the CEO, is 10 years younger, but I learned so much about the Android market, about how he operates and how he works, and it's really enlightening for me. Airbnb, Pinterest, great product people. It's a lifelong learning experience.
When you had your talk, you mentioned 3 things that you discovered as being really important for startups. First one, when you want to become successful, look for colossal shifts. That's what you've said. What do you mean with it?
Well, look for how the environment, how the tech world is changing. So just take, for example, social media, social networking. Its rise gave rise to a lot of new companies and new startups. Wonga, for example, in Germany, grew off a lot of the social revolution. Mobile, of course, iOS and Android have given rise to a lot of new platforms and a lot of opportunities. So look for those seismic shifts in technology and work from there.
So don't look for the small changes, but look at the colossal ones.
You know, the colossal ones are big, but what's interesting is that a lot of businesses do find certain nuances or opportunities that help them get ahead. At Eventbrite, we've definitely been impacted in a really positive manner by Google search, by social media, by what else, mobile, and so on. But there are also other more subtle phenomenon. For example, there's a food revolution going on in the U.S. right now, in the sense that people are getting back in touch with cooking and learning about where their food comes from. And for example, we have a lot of bacon enthusiasts using Eventbrite right now, holding baking get-togethers. So that's been an interesting thing to see, that's driven the expanse of growth for Eventbrite.
Second point of 3 is allow your customers to lead. What's behind that?
Well, really look for what your customers are doing. You know, sometimes you'll find that they're doing something completely different from what you anticipated. And a lot of times that we don't know what our customers want the most, and their actions really speak louder than their words, as the expression goes. And so at Eventbrite, we saw our customers sharing with social media, and we started to integrate with social media, and now we find that Facebook is the #1 source of traffic to our sites, because people want to go to events with their friends. If you're in Berlin or Munich or so on, and you're attending a tech conference or a music show, you're likely to share that.
Yeah. Makes sense. Point number 3 makes sense too, and that is, don't be afraid to make shifts and pivot. So what's behind that? It's pretty self-explanatory, but tell us about that.
Well, when you first launch your business, you always have high hopes that we always have high hopes it will take off, like a YouTube or a Instagram, but in reality, you really have to observe. And usually entrepreneurs are not don't get it right the first time out or the second time, and you have to change quite a bit. But it's really just be flexible, and you've got to keep shifting the business so you really find things take off, and be realistic. If the business isn't working, don't keep pushing it ahead in that direction. Try something new, experiment, be open to change.
That's what I also found out during my interviews. Many of the successful companies I interview, they've done something totally different before and shifted like extremely. And you've mentioned some very cool examples when you had your speech. There was the history of YouTube and the history of PayPal, and the history of YouTube was kind of funny. What was it? How did I don't know if you know it, but you told it. How did YouTube start?
Well, YouTube was a dating site is how it started. So that's a great example. The other example I talked about was PayPal started out as a mobile security company back when there was the Palm Pilot, which is a precursor to the iPhone.
Yeah. Still know it, but it's a long time ago, and they changed a lot. Meanwhile, being I think, most important payment system of the world, online payment at least.
They're doing quite well.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of new challengers there, and PayPal's going to have to work hard to make sure that they don't get disrupted themselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Do you see some companies, some cool or formerly cool companies that are declining because they didn't invent themselves fast enough?
Well, it's the natural cycle of all technology companies. IBM was once the biggest tech company in the world, and the PC revolution came along, and Microsoft took over, and now Microsoft has lost a lot of its edge as the internet came along, and now we see a fundamental shift to mobile. So nobody can feel safe. As they say, it's good to be paranoid, and the only constant is that things will change constantly, and entrepreneurs need to always be aware of how the market's shifting. You can either embrace the changes and grow with them as we have at Eventbrite. We've grown through the social media revolution. We've seen explosive growth through now the mobile revolution, or one can ignore them, and if you ignore them, some new smart entrepreneur is going to take you out.
Cool. Interesting words. Thanks a lot for the interview.
Andre, really a pleasure. Thank you.